Hey everyone, big patch notes just got released today. Patch is already live. Go play it right now. But I'm just going to be going over the notes, what I think about the changes, if I think they're good, if I think they're bad, if I think they're reasonable, and giving what decks and what strategies this will incentivize. So first, we got the big card everybody hates. Wild Paul Null is now Rush, costs one less for each non-rogue card, class card you've added to your hand this game. This makes it so in theory you could still run it in like Jackpot Rogue decks that generate lots of cards. Reality is if you play this for 4 mana, it's fair compared to other power level cards. 3, it's actually very strong in theory without a cost. So, but it probably won't make the cut. This decks won't run this because it's now just not easy enough to get it off. But in theory, if you had a rogue deck that wanted to run lots and lots of even more than they already do, non-class generating cards, you could run this, but realistically this is probably the death of the card, but everyone's sick of this card. Just the feeling of your opponent just too consistently playing it for 0 mana. I was playing on Wild yesterday and my opponent played it for 2 mana. I was like, wow, it's still good. It's just crazy that it's just so consistently 0 at so little cost before. So wasn't sure the optimal change, but this probably does kill the card. But I'm kind of just sick of this card. And I think it's just too strong for the way it's designed. Sandstone Graveyard has a 1/1 ghost. Summon a 1/1 ghost, has +1/+1 for each other card you play this turn. This no longer has stealth. I think it's a really good change. What I really don't like about the stealth is it really shuts certain classes off. While it's good against others. So certain classes that have, targeted single target removal just can't deal with this. If, let's say you're playing Hunter, for example, you could run the 3/4 and use like a candle shot and kill this, but you can't kill it if it doesn't have stealth, but you can't otherwise. But where Priest has something like Showered Ruin, or I'm trying to think of other classes that Blood Death Knight has asphyxiate. So I really didn't like that. The stealth really limited what classes can beat this, where I think, classes that if you're putting a 12/12 on turn 4, which is still going to happen sometimes with this deck, your opponent should have a chance to respond to it. Now, if they might need a tech card, they might need something, might need to run Big Game Hunter, but if they should have that opportunity, and I think this is a good change. Final Showdown, quest draw 6 cards in 1 turn, reduce their cost to their 1 for the first part. It's interesting. They probably thought about doing it to 5 and they realized in some situations that might make it better because they get even more cards. So we got to do 6. I think this is the reality I kind of comment on. Sometimes when they have to make lots and lots of nerfs, how do you solve this card? I don't know what the solution is. So they do the one the card's probably dead. It's going to be too annoying. You're not going to be able to get to draw 6 until late in the game, maybe turn 5 or 6. So this is just not going to be good enough. So the card's dead. Real easy dust. You're not Simple Brand going to 2 mana. So because the spell DH can easily work without the quest. And I like this comment. Demon Hunter is one of the best 4 class high ranks, so it's just as powerful. Civil Brand was chosen as a target because it punishes opponents for simply playing the game. And this is, I think, a real good point. Is something there's a balance. I think sometimes it's interesting in Hearthstone when if you're playing around Spreading Plague or something, that card that got nerfed as well, when you have these decisions where I shouldn't play a card because it could get Simple Branded. But I think Simple Branded was just way too easy for your opponent to say, I played a minion, now I lose. And sort of they want to disincentivize. So regardless of the power level, it's probably a good change. This card is just kind of too synergistic with rush minions that are very heavily available in the spell DH archetype. So I think it's a very reasonable change. Shockspitter got nerfed to a 4 mana 3/3. I think this is just a card that's just too easy to win the game. And it's too reliable. It's very easy play pattern. It's very easy for beginners. Just hit stuff and then go in the face. And I think now it's really annoying to pull off. We'll see if Shockspitter survives. I wasn't thinking it was going to last at 3. So, but it's a 4 mana 3/3, which can actually make Devouring Storm worse. So This could definitely be, you know, I'm not counting it out. It's something I could see it either way. I could see being garbage, and I could still seeing the meta making it so it's still playable. But I think you're just better off playing Beast Hunter now. So I think there are better Hunter decks that doesn't make sense to run Shockspitter unless the meta really incentivizes it. Glacial Advance. Deal 4 damage. Your next spell costs 1 less. So this is effectively going from like effective 1 mana to 2 mana. You know, which is kind of a similar power level of something like Wicked Stabs. So I think, you know, you got 2 of these in your hand, you duplicated them, and you just all of a sudden did ridiculous damage with spell damage. I think this card could get toxic real quick. And Frost Death Knight looked really good at the beginning, and then all these other classes that got nerfed. So if they didn't nerf anything, so they're nerfing the burn. I don't like when burn is too strong in Hearthstone. So I think this is the right card to nerf. I think it's better when you're the easiest way to win should be board, and burn should be a counter incentive where when board or removal, when control decks are being too greedy, they're running all the control cards so the board can never win, then you run the burn. And I think that's the natural order of things. When burn just becomes the default strategy because it's so freaking good, I think that's a problem. So anyways, good nerf. Astalor Bloodsworn. So this the Mana Thirst got increased from 2 to 8 to 10. And the final one got 7 to 14. This is the first nerf I wasn't a fan of. One is this, I think certain classes like Druid barely get touched on this nerf. Now you do less damage, but so let's see. Before you could do 32 twice for 64. Now it does 56. So that is, you know, a sizable amount of damage lost for OTKs. But still, it's I think Astalor Druid is still going to be really good. And I wanted this to be like a deal everything, to be more of a slow value tool, but it's still a finisher. Less good, but you know, overall, I'm just not still completely a fan of this card. So I think this card's still going to be good, but I think certain classes, you know, aren't going to like it, and certain classes are. It's the one thing that's really awkward with this card is you have to now choose whether you gain the tempo of the Mana Thirst or whether you want to, like, so for example, if I want to play this on this to get this done, play this on turn 5. Well, now I can't, like, you know, before I could play on turn 4 and then go this on turn 5 if I didn't need the armor. So certain situations it's going to be way weaker, but in certain situations it's going to be barely affected. So we'll see. I don't expect this card to go away. This card is not a disenchant. It's going to still be good. That's my opinion on that. Now we got buffs, cards that are getting buffed. So we got some Death Knight cards. Battlefield Necromancer. At the end of your turn, raise a corpse as a 1/3 Risen Footman with Taunt. I played this in Wild yesterday. This card is broken before. It's going to be even more broken now. But it's like, can you get the synergy to make it broken? Do you run enough 1-drops to do this? But this card's going to be so annoying. Just the 1/3 taunts over and over again. Certain classes, so it's just a very, very annoying card. That's, you know, much like Trog, where it kind of can spiral. So it can but you do have to use corpses. So often you maybe play 1-drop, you kill it off, you play this, but then you don't have a corpse for the next turn. So it's hard to really spiral with it. Still to some extent, but still I think it's going to be a really strong card. And you can see the Bone Guard Commander also got 1/3s. This makes a big difference for this card even more, I think, because things like Holy Nova, things like Consecration, there are too many cards that just got through all the 1/2s, and now they're not. What's interesting enough, I don't know if you guys have played the Death Knight quest, the prologues, but now this is going to summon a bunch of 1/3s, and then you always top deck Consecration to get through, but now it's not going to work. So that's what I think is kind of funny. It's going to be harder to complete the prologue now. A big nerf to the prologue, or a buff to your opponent. So next we got Unholy Frenzy. This card is a cool card, and it wasn't just seeing play at 3. I think this card is very similar to Devouring Storm. I think it's but instead of value, it's tempo. But I think going on 2 mana is it's just too hard for that 3 mana for you to get ahead of on the board to utilize the value of Unholy Frenzy. So I think at 2 mana, it's, you know, you can play a card and play this, which is much more appealing. Wither, kind of a similar thing for Druid, but there's just not enough undead minions, so I don't think, you know, right now this sees play. but maybe it gets the synergy for Druid eventually. But I think this card's still not going to be good. Priest. It's time for Egg Priest to really take the full S tier. Egg Priest has already been a dominant archetype, but now with the buff to Bonecaller, I think Egg Priest can really, and all the other classes getting weakened, it might be Egg Priest's time to shine. This is a 2/5 now. This is just more annoying. And you can play it on 4, and sometimes it doesn't die, and you can trade off your thing. And Haunting Nightbird up to a 4/3. I'm not sure. I haven't been a fan of this card as much as the other undead cards, but can't deny its increase in power level. It's just more annoying. It does more damage, can't get value traded by a 3/4. And High Cultist Balsameth to a 4 mana. This is a huge buff. This is huge. So they're really trying to say, we want you to play Undead. This card's really, really good now. So playing Undead Priest, like being able to play this for 4 mana can be so useful in certain spots and a lot easier to fit in your curve now. So yeah, really, really strong. You could do just something like Coin Plague Spreader. Your Plague Spreader dies, play this. That's good enough. Still a huge tempo swing. So really, really strong card now. This card, the Darkon Drakthir, at the end of your turn, deal 6 damage to the hero, so lifesteal. They're trying to make it a playable card, and it wasn't playable. It's hard to have 8 mana minions that don't win the game, so they're making it 7 mana. Good choice. And they have this one is at 6 mana. The big archetypes just, you either Hearthstone's too fast, so they're making these things. And this card, I think, this Vengeful Walloper, going down from 7 to 6 mana. I said in the reviews, I was like, you can't run a 6 mana Outcast like payoff because you need the Outcast cards. It's too annoying. So I think at 6 mana, it has a better chance. I did see a deck playing this card in Wild at 7 mana. Deck wasn't that good, but I think maybe you can get this down for 0 mana a good amount of the time, make it good enough. So very reasonable change. Energy Shaper, this going to 3 mana, so a lot of cards that this one I was surprised on. Discover 2 spells that cost 3 or less, swap their cost. But it's kind of 3 mana generate 3 cards. That's like an Arcane Intellect, just not really strong enough. Unless you'd rather usually just have card draw, so it makes sense that compared to power level of other cards. Time Warden, going to for Paladin until the end of your next turn. Dragons that you summon gain Taunt and Divine Shield, going to 3 mana. I just don't. It's hard to make Paladin dragons work as an archetype because they stink. But so unless you're running Kazakhstan, so if I could see this card seeing play if Kazakhstan is good enough to be run as a win condition in Paladin, but it's hard to compete with other win conditions like Jailer. So it's hard for me to see just the way Hearthstone is right now. Big clunky minions are just too vulnerable, and that's what dragons are. So it's even with Divine Shield, but this card, if you do get to 7 mana, you can play this with the 1 mana guys and get 1 mana Divine. You give Divine Shield. They already have Taunt, so there is that. But still, I'm not sure if this makes the cut. But I always say 4 mana cards need to be OP to see play, and this wasn't for, but 3 mana cards can make the cut in a lot of decks. A lot of decks need 3 mana cards, so I think this could see play now. So this is just 1 more health. Battlecry, cast a copy of your opponent last turn. I'm not sure about this card. It's not that interesting. This Disruptive Spellbreaker, a little more annoying. This card has seen some play in Warrior, but I just don't think it's going to be quite good enough control. But who knows? At the end of the day, Warrior does do armor gain well, and this card was run in some decks, so it's a little more annoying to remove. A 5/5 doesn't value trade it anymore, so it does make a big difference sometimes. Last Stand, I really like this change. It's a draw a taunt minion, mana thirst, double its stats. This one's really cool because it's like you could play it on turn 7 with a 6 mana minion and then play it immediately, which I think the card they're thinking about is either is 5 mana. But what I like about it is just playing 4 mana for draw a minion felt so bad, and I think this is a really cool change like that. You can use it early as just a draw a minion, but you can also use it late for the double its stats, and it's a lot more efficient. So I'm excited to see what people come up. This card could be a really cool card now, especially so just the doubling the stats is valuable. Nelly, they made the pirates cost 2 less. I believe they talked about doing this originally, but they didn't end up doing it. So you can get a lot of 0 mana pirates. So it might actually be playable now, but you still can't get the 1 mana smite. The smite would be now 5 mana, which is so I think we'll see if this card makes the cut. It's hard to say without trying it out, but definitely a lot more powerful now. And you got Memorial Living Blade. I thought this was going to go down to 6 mana. It's now 5 attack. Still doesn't seem good enough, but you never know. So for some reason, I always feel like 4 attack minions are stronger than 5 attack. So I don't feel like Warrior is going to be quite on the map. I don't think these changes are good enough, but who knows? But yeah, bottom line, a lot of good changes. I think the only change I'm a little iffy on is wasn't as fan of the Astalor change. But I guess they don't want the card to be, they don't want to risk deleting the card too soon. They want it to be kind of the neutral legendary of the expansion. So they're doing a small nerf. We'll see if I could totally see that card getting nerfed again. But everything else really good. I think Rogue will be a lot more exploitable now. If you guys read my article, where it's a lot easier to exploit an unstealth minion than a stealth minion. A lot more, you can run a big game hunter if it becomes too strong in your deck. Or if you're a deck that doesn't deal with 10/10s and rogues everywhere, you can run a big game hunter. Now you can still play your class that you like, and you don't have to be kind of ruined by rogues. So big fan of these changes. I'm excited to play in the meta. I'm going to get on the ladder right after this. So see you guys on Twitch.